Yeah. It's your boy Joe Bass. Welcome to another edition of Becoming a Pro Bassist. Um, this is still the beginners level. So yes, if you are just joining us for the first time and you have missed a lot of videos, please make sure you go back and watch those videos. They are very important before you move to this next step. Don't jump steps. So don't jump steps. It can affect you. People that jump steps at some point when they are playing, they find it difficult to play something. So it is better you learn the right way now than for you to unlearn later to relearn. I've experienced that before because no one taught me the bass guitar actually. I learned it all by myself, just picking it up and trying till I started getting some things and then following some videos online. But by the time I started following the videos, I already started playing some little things. So I don't want to go back to those beginner stuffs. And it gave me tough time. I still had to go back at the end of the day and practice personally till I get them. I had to unlearn some things and relearn. So I will advise you to learn the basics now. Know it well before you advance. It's going to give you an edge. So now let's get started. I said on this video we'll be talking about learning the notes on the fretboard. This is our fretboard as we have been dealing with the bass guitar. You should be aware of this by now. Our fretboard, and this is the body. Now the notes on the fretboard, remember that on the video I did about tuning the guitar, if you have not watched that, please go back and watch that video. It's very important for this one. So I said the arrangement of the bass guitar now, it's our G, which is our first string, and I believe you know the first string by now, the tiniest string. You count it as if you are physically going from down to up, but you're actually going down as you go physically up. That's just it. As I'm going from this string now to this, the very one here, that is actually going down because you are going lower the notes, you are going deeper. So now this is my G. The next string now, which is the open string, is my D. The next, the open string, is my A, and the first one, the open string, is my E. So now the arrangement of the sofa of the musical notes on the keyboard, you see that the keyboard always starts from the key of C. If you are familiar with the keyboard, you know that on the keyboard you notice that you see the white keys and the black keys. Now don't get that confusing. It's something similar to what we have on the guitar. Yes, on the keyboard the white keys represent the natural keys. What are the natural keys? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no H. Oh. Anybody that say key H is hungry. That's what the H stands for. So those are the 7 natural keys, major keys. We call them the major keys. Now, what of the other 5 keys? Because from the last video I said we have 12 keys, right? And I said that's what I represented here on the bass guitar. I said when we play from the open string down to the string just before these 2 dots here, we have played 12 notes, which gives us all the keys. So on playing this string here, where these double dots are, it just gives us what we have on the open string, but a higher pitch, which is an octave. Yes, an octave is just the same notes, but either higher or lower. You are playing the same notes, but either you are going higher or you are going lower. So now, emphasizing on that, our major keys A to G. If you notice on the keyboard, your keyboard starts from the key of C. I'm going to place a keyboard on the screen for you so that you can see it and picture what we're having. If you have a keyboard with you, that is very good. You can check it out. Now you notice that the first string, sorry, I'm used to the strings because I am a bassist. So the first key on your keyboard is the key of C. Now immediately after that white key, you see a black key, then a white key in between with another black key. Now that black key that is in between C and and D, because remember I said the white keys on the keyboard are what? The natural keys. Those are the natural keys on the keyboard. So from C, the next white key is going to be a D. The next white key will be an E. Now what do you notice? Between C and D, those two white keys, there was a black key. That black key happens to be what we call an accidental key or an accidental note. Some people call it a minor key, anyhow, but make sure you understand it. Yes, but basically they are called flats or sharps. I'm going to explain that later in this video, so stay tuned. Don't leave here to don't be in a hurry. So the black key in between C and D is called a flat or a sharp, which is an accidental key. Now let's keep that aside for now. From D now, the next white key is E, right? But in between D and E, you still see another black key. Keep that aside again. That is an accidental. Now from E to the next white key, you are not going to see any space, as you can see on the screen. There is no space there, right? There's no black key in between. It's just consecutive. Now remember that on the bass guitar we said a semitone is when we move from one fret to the next. That is a semitone. From E to F, we have what we call a semitone. So there is no space. There's no notes in between E and F. That means there is no accidental notes between E and F. They are consecutive, unlike the way we had it between C and D and between D and E. So between E and F, there is no accidental. Now from F to G now, which is the next white key, after F is G, you will see a black key there, right? That black key is another accidental between F and G. Now let's go from G. Now we'll go back to A. Yes, remember I said there's no H. So from A to G, you now go back to A again and start all over. That's how it works. So we're back to A now. Between G and A, you see another black key, an accidental, right? Between A and B, you see another black key, another accidental. Now between B and C, we are going back to C, which was the first key on the keyboard. You are not going to see any notes there, right? Now that's to tell you that between B and C, there is what? A semitone. There is no note between them. So what do you notice now? In our musical notes, the only two places whereby we don't have an accidental between two notes is when we move from E to F and from B to C. Do we get that clear? When we move from B to C and from E to F, there's no accidental. But for the remaining notes, from A to B, accidental. From C to D, accidental. D to E, there's an accidental between. Or we can say it's a full tone, meaning that there's a note between, and those notes are called accidentals. Now, back to what I said earlier, the concept of flats and sharps. What is a flat? Now, when we're dealing with the tuning of a guitar, before tuning your guitar to get the right note, you kind of hear something that is around what you are looking for. Let's assume that, okay, let me detune this my guitar now, the G string. This is the actual note. Do. Let me loosen it. Do. It's not giving me do. Now you are hearing something that is sounding familiar, like close to what I'm expecting. Do. But it's a flat because it's not the exact note. Now that I've tightened it a bit, that's giving me that note. So that note that was just slightly loose, a note that is slightly before that major note, is called a flat. Then if I tighten more than it should be, it will go to a sharp, a note after that note. So a note that is slightly before a note can be called the flat of that note, and a note that is slightly after a note it can be called a sharp of that note. Now back to what I was saying on the keyboard. Remember I said after our C, which is the first key on the keyboard, you will see um a black key before you move to your D, which is the next natural note after C. Now that black note, that black key that you can see there after your C, is an accidental. I remember we said slightly after, we call it a sharp. So since that note, that black key is slightly after the white key, we can call it what? We can call it our C sharp, because it is slightly after C, immediately after C, between C and D. But since it is before D, we can also call it a D flat. So don't be confused when you hear someone saying C sharp, another person saying D flat. They are all saying the same thing. Yes, a lot of people get that wrong. They feel you can't call C sharp D flat. When you call it D flat, you are wrong. Or they feel when you call let's say D sharp E flat, they say you cannot call it D sharp, you must call it E flat. There's nothing like that. As far as it is an accidental and it is after the main note, you can call it a sharp of that note. If it is before the note, you can call it a flat of that note. So let's get to understand that. Now moving on, let's check something out on our guitar. So let me start on my key of C. So yes, remember, I have an assignment for you guys. Yeah. So remember I said I already gave us the arrangement of the strings, of the keys of each string, or the notes of each string. I said the first string is our G, then we have our D, then we have our A, then we have our E. So now it shouldn't be difficult, having understood this concept of the arrangement of musical keys. Having understood this concept, it should not be difficult for us to locate a particular key on the bass guitar. Now for example, if I say on the first string, now locate your key of A. Now how do we go about that? How do we locate our key of A on this first string? Now remember that the open string is our what? G. You can see that the open string of this string that you can see here, this first string here, is our G. That means the first fret here will be there. You can see that it has changed in tone. G sharp or A flat, any one of them. So after our G, we have our what? G sharp. After our G sharp, we have our what? We go back to what? A. Now remember, based on the concept of the arrangement I said, the note that is after a major note is called what? The sharp. That's why I said the note after our G was our G sharp. Because remember that from a G to an A, if you look at the keyboard, there's a black note there, meaning that there is a what? Full tone. There's a note between G and A. And on the bass guitar, that note is a fret between, relating them together. You see that their music is very relative, so it's all the same, irrespective of the instrument. As far as it gives melody, it's a melodic instrument, we can relate them. Now this note now that is after G, as I said, is our G sharp. Then from our G sharp we move to A. So I've located A on my bass guitar. A. Now let's strike our A string and see if they will give us the same sound. As far as your guitar is tuned rightly, it should give you the same sound. Do. Sorry, let me tune this a do. So it should give you the same sound, but just that this is a higher octave, which is an A. Now locate your E flat on your second string. Let's see. I want you to try that. You can pause this video and try that and see if you get it right. I'm going to do that right now because there's no time. So this is our D string, right? The second string, our D string. Immediately after D, we have our what? D sharp. After D sharp is E. So where is our E flat? So remember I said something. The note just before the natural note can be referred to as the flat of that note, as far as that note is an accidental. And remember that D sharp is an accidental and it is before E. So since it is before E, we can call it what? E flat. Now the symbol of flat, I believe you have seen it on the screen. That thing that looks like a B, while the sharp looks like a hash, a hashtag. Yeah, so that is the difference. So our D sharp is the same thing as our E flat. So this first fret here already gives us our E flat. So try more exercises, give yourself assignments, locate different keys on the fretboard and try it out and see how you get used to mastering your notes on your fretboard. So in conclusion, what we have been able to do in this particular chapter is learning the notes on the fretboard. First of all, we have known the note of each string of this of a four-bass guitar string. Our advice: you use a four string bass guitar to start this journey, because a five string has an extra string up, down rather. Yeah, the thickest string, which is the B string. So I don't want you to go into that yet. Don't confuse things up. So, as we have said in summary, I've learned the major the notes of each string, and then how can we find each a note on any string based on the musical arrangement that we have. I have it on the screen here. You can still see it. If you have not seen it, just master it and try. And I advise that as you are playing, be trying to call the notes as you are playing. And you can use this to also master your fingering exercise. Yes, using the chromatic scale. So if I start from this, remember, don't worry, I know some of you might think this is my favorite note because I like the third fret on the G string. It's not my favorite. I'm just picking a point where it's easy to watch what I'm doing. So you can master it. That note there is our what? That should be our B flat. So you can call it as you are playing. B flat, B, C, C sharp, B flat, B, C, C sharp. Then you can move B, C, C sharp, D, B, C, C sharp. So you can exercise it however you want so that you can master the notes on each. I'm not saying you should cram. Music is not a thing of cramming. The more you play, the more you exercise, the more you get used to it, the more you know, the more you discover. So I advise you not to give up. So stay tuned for more, and we'll be moving into another episode, yes, which is very critical. So I advise that you subscribe, you click on the notification button, yeah, so that you can receive that notification when the next video drops. See you.